back to the Sunday Footy Show.
Is that the chairman of the North Melbourne Footy Club there?
How is North Melbourne meant to be taken seriously with that sort of garbage?
Maybe Wonder Woman could call the game off.
Wonder Woman would fix up the surface at idiot.
Gene Simmons out of Kissbill. Now, much more serious was the game yesterday at the MCG where Collingwood took on Carlton, the arch rival, in front of just under 80,000, and they made an awful mess of the Blues. For the second time in a year, not happy about that, Carlton fans. Beams, a terrific young player. He played very nice football, as did that whole list. The Pies are on fire. Walker, OK. Simpson got plenty of it. Greg, Scotland, you can see the numbers there, but the Blues were never in it from the first bounce, really. About 5 minutes in, it was all one-way traffic. Swan, what an incredible season he's having. As we welcome from the Collingwood Football Club, Alan Toovey, a very reliable defender and having a nice season himself. And Alan, congratulations, mate. The Magpies, I think we've had a guest for the last month, and every time I've said the same thing, you're just flying.
Yeah, it's been good. The last few weeks especially, we've had a couple of big games and played well. So, yeah, everyone's gone well.
And I know that the club's played it down in the build-up, but you love beating the Blues.
Yeah, I think our president, he was pretty happy after the game last night. He was pretty excited, so he loved it. But, yeah, it's always good to beat your main rivals.
Yeah, and a big crowd there too, yes, Shane.
Alan, you're always ready for the opposition. You always start the first quarters extremely well. Why is that so? You know, you see sides like Melbourne who are starting to change the way that they've gone about it. You see Brisbane who are hopeless in their first quarters. Why are Collingwood so good?
I'm not really sure. This year, I think we've definitely been good. Our first quarter's been really good. Probably drifted off a bit in the last quarters, but there's no real change that we've made before the game or leading up to it or anything like that from the last couple of years. So I think it's probably just the mindset. Everyone's a bit switched on, knowing what we've got to do.
And now, the first 5 minutes of the game, the Carlton really did take it to you. They kicked a couple of early goals, and it looked from the stands that we were going to have a pretty tight game in our hands.
Yeah, they started pretty well. They got the first couple, and then I think Leon got our first one on the board, which was good for him, being his 200th game. But yeah, once we steadied that a little bit, we kind of took over the game.
And you really dominated them in the contested possession. What was spoken about before the game, Carlton as a side, what were the areas of the game that Mick wanted you to concentrate on to make sure you were on top?
I think with their players, they've got a lot of quick players. Like their small forwards are pretty dangerous around the ball if they get space, so we kind of wanted to slow that down and make sure that when they were getting inside 50s, they were pretty slow. And then once we had the ball, move it in and get it into our forwards where they could use it.
After the first 5 minutes, boys, Collingwood had total domination of this game. We see the forwards there running an absolute mark. Davis there had a couple before half-time. He was very dangerous, but Cloak was the main one. He was in fantastic form. His kicking for goal wasn't great too, but certainly his movement around the ground and also his contested work was fantastic.
Yeah, it was good. He's been missed a couple of weeks, so having him back, taking those big, strong marks that he does was really good.
Lee Brown we see there, I thought he was given the goal, but they actually end up giving that one to Wellingham. There's our man Al doing a bit of work. Being in that back six with the boys, really what you seem to do well, and you did it yesterday, is getting that spare number. Harry O'Brien at times just always getting across and supporting each other.
Yeah, we try to keep that pretty constant. I think when we've had Nick Maxwell out for a couple of weeks and then Heath out for the last couple, so those guys normally play that role a bit, so we've kind of spread it around. Harry having a couple of goes at it, Tyson Goldstack last few weeks as well, so trying to just get numbers around the ball.
It's a pretty good... Sorry, Bill.
I want to ask him about Harry O'Brien. He was asked yesterday about winning the premiership, and he said it's like eating an elephant. How do you swallow an elephant? One bite at a time. So that's what we're trying to do. It's a Chinese proverb. Now, can you explain that? What is proverb?
Yep.
Well, I'm not really sure.
Eating an elephant. You haven't sat around and spoke about that?
Tried. We were over in South Africa a couple of years ago and we didn't do that.
He's a bit of a different unit, the Big H, isn't he?
Yeah, he has a different perspective on things, but he's great around the club. He's really dedicated to the team. And
terrific footballer, and that's obviously what matters.
Tomo, it's a good side that can leave Simon Prestigiacomo out.
Yeah, and interesting too, they brought in Nathan Brown, the youngster, to give him a go, and he just slotted into your back six just nicely.
He played well last week in the VFL, so when Presti was a bit sore and couldn't come in, it was automatic that he'd come in, I think. So
yeah, well, the boys at Collingwood were playing a little bit of Kelly pool after half-time because they put the cue in the rack. They were 50 points up, of course, Wilbur, and the third quarter they kept going. We see Daisy Thomas there. He's having a very good season, Al. He's been a real key ingredient to your rotations through the middle of the ground.
yeah, playing on that wing, just the run that he has and the ability to make sure that the guys he's playing on don't get heaps of the ball as well is probably one of the strengths that he's got.
In a few seasons gone by, you've been criticised for going wide and around the boundaries, Collingwood, but you've stuck to that plan this year. 19 marks inside 50-5 yesterday tells me that game plan is stacking up.
Yeah, it has been publicised a bit about going down the boundary, but it's not an actual focus for us. More, we just want to get the ball through the areas that have got a bit of space, and with our wingers and flankers like Dids and Tomo, they normally get out there so that they get used.
What about that there? Toovey, just a nice 70-metre barrel.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I think Goldie last week had a kick out and he bring the talk back. So I think
what does Mick say about it, Toovey? Is it something that he allows the boys to do, as in he gives them free licence?
Certain players are allowed to do it.
You're not running with that one? You're not letting go of the
I'll be
torps?
seeing that one.
Chris Judd, boys, just before half-time hurt his, what looked like his shoulder, but is believed to be his pectoral, is not quite right, so we'll wait for news on where Chris Judd is toward the end of this season. Didn't really play much after three-quarter time, but we see here that was just a wonderful goal from outside 50 from young Dane Beams. He was absolutely fantastic. Collingwood were one short in Wellingham going down. How does he end up after the game?
Yeah, I think he just had a corky just above his knee, kind of worried him a bit, so he only played the first half, but I think he'll be right for next week.
So in the last quarter, as I mentioned, boys, Collingwood one down. They certainly didn't have their best quarter in the final term. The Blues kicked a couple of late ones to make the scoreboard look a little more reasonable, but Collingwood fantastic.
What's a pass mark, Tomo, for Collingwood? Is it to make the grand final? Is it to make a prelim?
To win
or is it to win the grand final?
I definitely think it's to win the grand final the way they're playing. And we spoke to Gary Pert as well on radio before a game 2 weeks ago, and he said exactly that. If they don't win a grand final in the next 2 years, it will be seen as a failure inside the Collingwood Football Club. And I think it's fair enough. They're a very, very good team. The votes, we'll get to the votes now.
And, you get Toovs in?
I couldn't get our man in this time because some of the other guys were just too good. Beams was fantastic, Alan. He was great, 30 posies and 3 goals. Pendlebury, wonderful, as you mentioned. Didak and Swan just doing their usual business now for the run home, and it certainly is that. What a game that'll be Saturday night at the G. Geelong. Then the Bombers, who have found a little bit of mojo, boys, so a couple of big weeks, Adelaide and Hawthorn. And for the Blue Baggers, Essendon, Richmond, Geelong and Fremantle. They certainly need to get busy and win a couple of those games, Jim.
Alan, explain Dane Swan to us, because I think it's the 12th time this year he's had 30 or more possessions in a game of footy. So every opposition team going into a game against Collingwood knows that they've got to have a plan ready for Dane Swan, and yet week after week he gets 30 plus.
Yeah, I think he can run pretty fast and he's got a great fitness level and he's strong as well, so he's pretty hard to match up because he just works so hard and he has those attributes. So yeah, he just works hard and gets in there.
And also we saw in the Herald Sun today, Jim, he's the most rotated player in the competition as well, so Collingwood do a great job of keeping him fresh. Carrazzo went to him yesterday, but unfortunately just couldn't keep up.
What about Saturday night, Will? It's
Saturday night.
Enormous.
Geelong's home game, so Collingwood fans get along there. It'll be a big crowd too. Did you have a look at them last night?
No, I didn't. We had a function last night, so didn't watch any of that.
Don't have to worry about them. Just another win. Another bite of the elephant.
Got to look after the fans, Bill. The sponsorship stuff. You would know about that.
Oh, rubbish. Well, I reckon you watch the opposition. No, but huge game. Looking forward to another big one. I suppose you're used to them at Collingwood.
We play a lot of big games. So we get big crowds to most of the games we play at. So, yeah, it'll be a good game.